Mr. Rector and Professor Eugenia Spinova, let me thank you for inviting me to present this opening keynote in your Education Science Conference at Silesia University in Poland. The challenge of to be a teacher in the 21st century is a great challenge. So, before I talk about the future of teaching and learning, let me put a question. And the question is it to be a teacher in the 21st century the same as to be a teacher in the 20th century? I don't want you to answer me now. I will ask you in the end of my keynote. But to talk about the futures reminds me what the Chinese says. We have to look into the history to have the shadow of the future. And we are going to see the evolution since 2500 years ago with Socrates and Aristotle. And during about 2000 years, the evolution was too short, and only the blackboard was appearing. And as the English say, it was talk with chalk, nothing more than that. But in fact, the evolution was too big during the last 70 years with the projector and evolution from one room computer to tiny computers with enormous potential with mobile phones, tablets, and all this fantastic technology to support us. But we have to see that in parallel, since the 18th century, a normal evolution happens as well from distance learning to presence learning. And only during the Second World War, enormous evolution with Skinner will appears with the teaching machine. And in the last 50 years, we have evolved from the open universities to teleschools and cassette videos and all this evolution. But in the 90s, a new challenge appears. It was e-learning. E-learning was very confusing in the beginning. Web-based learning, distributed learning, distance learning, internet-based learning, online learning, and finally, B-learning. But what does it really mean? It means that B-learning was a mix of presence and distance, teaching and learning. In fact, we have to say that it was three generations in e-learning. E-learning 1.0 in the 21st century. It was just delivering contents and the students should make their job alone. In fact, this evolution was in three stations, as I mentioned before. And 1.0 was just delivering contents. And in 2004, the second generation with Stephen Downes and O'Reilly introducing Web 2.0. Interactivity, but asynchronous interactivity. This means that things should go but not face to face in presence. But the evolution was as another step forward with George Simmons, connectivism, and it was synchronous interactivity with interactive classrooms and other similar things. And it was really an important step. But this B-learning introduced a new format of B-learning, which was means just learning an enormous evolution again. And this step forward shows never more being alone. Interactivity was very important. And B-learning has a different format. B-learning has now an asynchronous format or synchronous in presence in virtual environment. This is an enormous difference. And this difference is marking our teaching today, but not only in the technological aspects. in the pedagogical methodologies as well, from behaviorism to constructivism in about 1 century, with the theory of multi-intelligence with Kolb, Gardner, and Fleming, emotional intelligence from Daniel Goldman, and as well interactivity in learning from the neurophysiologic process was identified, and social collaborative learning from George Simmons. This evolution was a fantastic, fabulous evolution in no more than 1 century. And many other scientists as well, with methodological and pedagogic aspects. But about today. Today, we are facing a new challenge. But in 2000, Microsoft presented a view of what it was, let's say, happening during the 2 or 3 decades before. And let's have a look.
And so, the plain text is encrypted with the symmetric key that was randomly generated by the client application. The symmetric key is in turn encrypted with the public asymmetric key of the server. The server can then use its private asymmetric key to recover the symmetric key, which can then be used to obtain the plain text from the ciphertext. If a stream cipher is used, then a message authentication code must be applied to preserve integrity.
But in fact, in 2001, Rosenberg said that in the future it will have a more radical revolution. It will be an e-learning. It will be the disappearing of the E. And this is what we have pointed out about all these 3 stages: asynchronous and synchronous in presence or virtual. This is, let's say, everything converging. But Microsoft, in the same video as I presented before, has the view of what it was going to happen in 2010. Now we can see how true it was. Let's have a look.
And so, the plain text is encrypted with the symmetric key that was randomly generated by the client application. The symmetric key, in turn, can be encrypted with the public asymmetric key of the server. The server can then decrypt using its private asymmetric key to recover the symmetric key K, which can then be used to obtain the plain text from the ciphertext. If a stream cipher is used, then the message authentication code must be applied to preserve integrity. We have a question from the remote site. Why are we doing 2 encryptions for a single message? Well, that's mostly for efficiency. This allows the symmetric key to be used for subsequent messages, both from the server to the client and from the client to the server. And so, the plain text is encrypted with the symmetric key that was randomly generated by the client application. This symmetric key is in turn encrypted with the public asymmetric key of the server. The server can then decrypt symmetric key using its private asymmetric key. Using its private asymmetric key and obtain K.
In fact, it is not too much difference from what we are doing today. We are having a mission of presenting, guiding, access. These are the 3 main aspects of our mission as teachers, of course. But how do we learn? How do a human being learns? This is an important question, and it's totally identified. Let's have an overview. According to neuroscience, we are multimodal learners. We listen, we visualize, and we read. We have different channels to understand. We learning by stages in working memory, and we convert it to long-term memory. Let's have a look as well about the different learning styles, about reflexive, experimental, it's theoretical and reflexive, and we are deep learners and surface learners. And we are submitted to different models of learning, collaborative models and problem-based models, and we adjust according to Piaget format. The situation as this: multimodal learners, it's something that it's thought to be investigated in the 18th centuries, but the technology was too short that it was not possible to go very deep. Now we know that we have the reception of all information in the working memory. This is a behaviorist attitude, and from this reception we will transfer the information to the working memory, to long-term memory. And this is constructivism. It is construct and build your own knowledge in two steps. And it's important that we understand how do we do this, because today we must teach our students how to learn, because all contents are available. It's important to know how to make, and it's important that there are rules to be a good learner and catch the information. But when we are receiving the information for the first time, we will register only 10% from what we read, 20% from what we see, and 20% from what we listen. So we catch only a very small part of the information we are receiving. But we cannot catch all. So we have to make our reflection and to build our own knowledge in long-term memory. Normally we used to say you should study, but what is studying? Okay, now we know that we have to build our own knowledge in a constructivist approach, and there are as well rules and good practice to be a good student. But this is not all. We have to repeat, we have to magnify our basis to understand what we are receiving, and we have to teach this to our students. So we have another thing. We have the profile, as I mentioned before, of our students: actives, reflexives, experimental, and theoretic. There are slightly different profiles of teaching, and this is what is very important. We know and we teach our students how to do. There are as well deep and surface learners. Deep learners as deep profiles of learning than the surfacers. We have as well, as I mentioned, visual, aural, read and write it, and kinetic learners. So it's perfectly identified today, and we should know how to teach and how to behave with our students with different profiles. This is 21st century challenge. And the evolution on learning styles profile happens as well according to your life cycle and according to your studying cycle. If you are in the beginning of a studying process, your learning style is different from after some evolution on it. But this is not the moment to study about it. So we have as well learning models about a reflexive constructivist model, collaborative model, experimental models, and problem-based models. These models can be used by us teachers to facilitate the learning process of our students. Students studying steps are selecting a learning model, repeat, reflect, and repeat again. And from that, you have constructed your own learning. But the question is why to do and to teach how to learn? It's very easy. All the contents are available today, and these contents are in video format. You can go to YouTube or many other platforms on which you can find videos about anything, or you can go as well to find them in text format. You can find everything. But about the student of the future, it's another question. The dream of a future is to know as a teacher. Is most of our teachers are dreaming about to know as much as a teacher. Our students, in fact, today are digital learners. They spend many hours in front of TVs, mobile phones, video games. But in fact, they are using less than 2% on reading contents. So we have to adjust our methods to that. Our students have different styles. Let's just listen to the opinion of a student of the future.
My conclusion is that students, they
Digital
model
model learners have different learning styles. They are multimedia content, distance learning.
Yes, you know very well how to make conclusions. Thank you very much, Anna. It was a pleasure to be with you, as always. Thank you.
Thank
Say
you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
In the other hand, in 2 decades, we tried to build knowledge and information society, connecting cultures, connecting countries and civilizations in real time. But in fact, what happens if we have created a unknowledge society and disinformation society, only connecting cultures and countries and civilizations in real time? We have too much information available, and no one knows how to use properly. And about today, in today we have other changeovers. For a student starting a 4 years technical degree, half of what they have learned in the first year will be outdated by the third year of study. But more than that, we are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist. And what? To use technologies that have never been invented to solve problems that are no problems yet today. This is something very strange. We must be prepared to do, and we must be prepared, our students too. We are really living in exponential times. And the only conclusion that we can take is that a course today is a 4 years of introduction for 40 years of life learning. Nothing more than this. And the question is, how should we teach in the 21st century? A call to all this we have been reflecting about, we have to say that we are going to face a couple of scenarios. And these scenarios are presence and distance teaching, traditional and MOOC courses, formal and informal, grades and long life grades, and increasing your city, but mainly teaching how to self-learning. And that's why Teach How to Learn is so important today. Okay, this means that its teachers' skills are some that are absolutely necessary, as some other they are just recommended skills for working and to be teaching. And our conclusions are what to do. First of all, convert the schools into factory of dreams. And another thing is teachers into didactic communication wizards. But more, we would like to have as well to convert students' potential into their passions. But another thing, motivate students with what they like: multimedia, digital contents, new technologies. This is really the school of the future. But there is much more. Teacher skills for the 21st century should be turned into a blended teacher. Teachers should know how to present asynchronous and asynchronous using qualified technological equipments and new methodologies as well. But another thing, to know how to teach in the new methodologies, in ICT tools, to teach how to learn, to teach how to manage huge quantities of information. And this is extremely important. But now let's say change to London. And in London, we have another message. What type of new methodologies and ICT tools to be a good teacher in the 21st century? We have to say, necessary skills are, besides to be an expert in a scientific area, we should be necessary some other skills. But now, from St. Petersburg, define a teaching model based on new methodologies and ICTs, and know how to prepare and present their contents in multimedia format, tutoring in presence and online, formative continuous assessment. Let's listen to opinion in Kiev. As well, know how to use LMS, mainly if we are working at distance, and in presence as well. But if we are totally working at distance, we have to know how to use a virtual classroom. It is absolutely important, but so many other tools. But finally, we are in about the end of our trip. Let's return to Lisbon. And from Lisbon, I have an important question from you. And this question is, are we teachers prepared to be blended teachers in the 21st century? This is an enormous challenge. And I'm not going to answer you because you are going to reflect and give yourself the answer. If necessary, make some adjustments. And thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to be with you. You can make your questions now.